Happy Thanksgiving, everybody! We hope you are celebrating big with your families and eating lots of healthier options for Thanksgiving. Follow us to the kitchen as we prepare a perfect Thanksgiving meal with a healthier spin. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and like us on YouTube and subscribe. Hit that bell. Let's get cooking. Happy Thanksgiving!
Good morning, afternoon, evening to all of our Choices family. I'd like to welcome you to this annual holiday festivities of cooking. My name is Lisa Rochon. I am one of the many chefs that are going to be here to show you and guide you through the prep of your holiday Thanksgiving meal. My task today is to show you how to prep and roast a turkey or hen. Some people may not have access to a turkey. A hen is an excellent substitute, and the principles of roasting are the same. To start, though, we need to gather a few ingredients. We're going to gather some yellow onions, celery, parsley, garlic, bay leaves, about 3 to 4 bay leaves, 4 to 5 fresh sage leaves. If you don't have fresh, you can use a tablespoon of ground sage, a half a bunch of fresh thyme. If you do not have fresh thyme, you can use a tablespoon of ground thyme, and that will work just as well. I have 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I have a stick of butter. I have a cup and a half of chicken or vegetable stock will work. I also have seasonings of 2 tablespoons of black pepper, 2 tablespoons of salt, and 2 tablespoons of Tony Chachere seasoning. I have them in a bowl, and what we'll do is once we get them there, I mix them together so that we have an even coating on the birds once we're seasoning the inside and outside cavity. So once that's done, we set that aside and prep the vegetables is the first rule of order. I want to cut both ends off of this, come down and cut in the middle to get 2 half moons. For roasting purposes, I like long wedges. So to the bowl, I have 3 onions that have been cut into wedges, and I set that aside. I'm taking a rib of celery, and I'm trimming the very end off of the rib and the very tip off of the top. I am going to cut into chunks that are about 1.5 inches thick, ready for the inside cavity. I have a turkey here that I have rinsed the inside and the outside out. I have taken the neck, the liver, the kidneys, the heart, and the gizzards. So those are rinsed and in the pan for when we get ready. I make sure that I've trimmed whatever fat or whatever skin or markings that are on the bird off so that I have a clean looking bird, okay? I get my roasting pan and start the process of my prepping. Take your rack out, set it aside. To the pan, what I'm going to add is 2/3 of my onions. I'm going to scatter them over the bottom of the pan, leaving 1/3 in the bowl for later. I do the same with the celery, and I set that on the side. I take my bird and I set my bird on top of all of the vegetables. I tilt my bird up, and in the inside, I want to take the seasoning blend that I've mixed and sprinkle on the inside and season generously the inside of the cavity. Once I've done that, I will take a handful alternating and sprinkle the celery in here and the onion, as well as put half of the garlic that I have peeled. To that, I will add half of the dried sage and dried thyme and stuff it into the cavity as well. Because what will happen is the drippings of the bird will infuse the herbs and the vegetables and enhance both the flavor of the bird as well as the drippings, which you will then use to be an au jus or transform into a gravy. Inside the cavity, I put 2 of the bay leaves. I will sprinkle 2 bay leaves at the bottom of the pan. I'll take the remaining sage and put on my chopping board to chop fine, and then I'll let this all rest. What you can do, a lot of times you'll have a situation where your wings are running wild on your bird. You can do a process called keeling the wings, which basically means taking the tip end, bending and folding behind that breast rib, ending in a situation where you have a very neatly tucked bird. So there, I set the bird back down on my tray, and then I season the top. And then I take my thyme that I have, and I hold the tip and run my finger down to release some of the leaves and let the stem drop into the pan. It's all going to infuse that bird. I take the remaining garlic that I've peeled and I'm going to scatter that in the bottom of the pan. I take half of my bunch of parsley, and then to that I will take half, shove that in the bird as well so that it can be blended, and then I will take and I will scatter this around the edges of the pan. I'm going to take my 2 tablespoons of olive oil and drizzle on the outside of the bird. I'm going to take my hands and then rub and massage everything so that everything is well coated and amply seasoned. If you want to tidy up your legs and seal this in, you can take and put a hole right in this little cavity. Don't cut it off, but you'll see there's a little hole here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck both of my legs into that hole and then bring that flap back to my open cavity. The final step to this is I'm going to take my butter. I want a half of a stick, and then I will take half of this, slice approximately 2 to 3 slices or pats of butter, and I'm going to shove that inside the cavity as well. And what that's going to do is that's going to coat and nourish that bird as well. I'm going to take the remaining pat or quarter of a stick of butter, and then I'm going to take and rub it on the bird itself. And what this is going to do is going to help with the browning, help with the flavor of your au jus, which you can use, or the gravy. Make sure to catch your wings and make sure that they are generous, because it'll aid in the juice and the tenderness to make your bird succulent. The one final ingredient that we have to put on here the morning that we're baking is our stock. Basically, you're going to come here and you're going to pour this liquid at the bottom of the pan. And then once you've done it on the bottom of the pan, you want it to be approximately a ½ inch high so that it will steam and infuse. The bird and the vegetables will also weep their liquids into that stock of water to make a beautiful, beautiful au jus for you. But basically, this will be your finished product going into the oven. At this point, if I'm prepping the day before, I would stop at this juncture and I would take and cover it completely with foil and put it in my refrigerator so that it can rest overnight. The next morning, I will take this bird out, set it on my counter for at least 30 minutes while I'm prepping the other ingredients ready to get it in the oven. Bake it in a 350-degree oven for approximately 2 to 3 hours to start. At that point, that should be a resulting bird that's going to be tender, succulent, juicy, delicious. Take the foil off, and for the last 30 to 45 minutes, have it in that 350-degree oven browning and getting glorious. Once you get a browned bird, then you're going to put it on the counter, let it cool in its pan resting. If you are having a hen instead of a turkey, the principle is the same. I will take 2/3 of my onions and scatter at the bottom of the pan, leaving 1/3 to go inside the cavity. I'll do the same with the celery. I will take half of the garlic and scatter on the bottom of the pan. I will take half of the thyme, scatter on the bottom of the pan. I will take the sage, since I'm dealing with fresh sage, and I will gently julienne it or cut it into very thin strips and scatter it on the bottom of the pan. I will put my bay leaf on the bottom, inside of the pan. Again, the wings, and bend them behind the breast to keel them. Take my seasoning blend that I have mixed together and scatter it all along the inside of the bird. I take the celery, the onion, I take my remaining sage and put inside, as well as thyme. I also put the other half of the garlic inside the cavity of the bird. I set the bird down, season on the front. Olive oil, about a tablespoon. I rub to make sure everything's evenly dispersed on the skin of the bird. Half a stick of butter. I slice it. I slice 3 pieces to put inside of the cavity, making sure to go as far back as you can. I take the other butter, slice it, just like we did the turkey. Take half of the parsley that you have, shove in the cavity of the bird as the last thing you're going to do, and then scatter the remaining parsley all around the bird. Cover my bird. 350-degree oven for your hen. Let it cook for at least 2 hours. Check it after the first hour mark to make sure that there is liquid still in the pan. Once you check to make sure there's liquid still in the pan, seal it back, put it in for that second hour. At the second hour, test the side to make sure you're tender enough. Again, if you're not as tender as you would like, cover it back up, put it back in your oven for another 30 to 45 minutes. The last 30 to 45 minutes after that, you want to take the foil off, let it brown, and cool. Use your cooling procedures just like we did with the turkey. Look at our birds. We have taken them out of the oven, they have cooled down, and we are ready to carve. If you notice over here, the glorious turkey that we roasted, I have carved the breast off of the side, and I have sliced it. I have my dark meat and my white meat all sectioned off. Let me show you how we did that using our hen that we did. So the first thing I did, I take my chilled or the cooled down bird, put it on a chopping board or a platter that I'm going to be serving. I come along the thigh and I make an incision there so that I can take the first piece off. which is the thigh. Look, and it'll break freely from the carcass. I set the carcass off to the side. I come between the thigh and the leg, and it's a natural joint in between that I can get the leg separate from the thigh. And again, pop that joint, cut it. I have a complete leg that I can put down. Now, if you want, you can give the entire thigh to someone. But if you want to, you can take and carve half of it. Come along the inside, come around, break it and have it in two pieces. Take the top part off, and then trim some of the skin away, put off to the side, and then on the dark meat, just take and slice 1/2-inch slices so people can get maybe a little of both. Put your knife underneath what you've sliced and move it to the front of your platter. Take the other part and put behind it for those who want an entire piece all in one. Then come along to the side. Let's cut our wing off of our breast. We take and run the knife on the underneath, pulling the wing from the breastbone, and you'll hear a crack where the joint is connected. Run your knife in there, and we have a complete wing. To separate the wing, the drumette from the flat piece, come between the joints here and just come down, and it's a natural cut. There, I put my wing here, my drumette there, and then I'm here, ready to tackle the breast. I come along the top part, right along my breastbone. I run my knife down that. I take the tip of my knife to follow the carcass of the bone, and I gradually cut away the meat from the bone skeleton. So you can see right here, there's the rib cage, and now I have a complete breast of meat. So I take my remaining chicken for display. I sand it on its side so you can see. I take my breast piece here, and again, 1/2-inch slices. That way, someone can have dark meat as well as light meat. And then, once I get it all sliced, it is on my platter, on my cutting board. I take, and you can fan it out a little so everyone can see the pieces clearly. I always separate white meat from dark meat so there's no confusion as to what part is what. I have my au jus in a bowl ready to be drizzled over once you get it on your plate. That is the perfect way to carve your holiday bird. Happy holidays, everyone.